Good morning, you guys. Let's give it up one more time because that is what our church is for. This is why we do what we do here in Playas, in Zona Rio, throughout all of our campuses. But good morning, you guys. I'm excited to be here with you guys. My name is Leticia. I'm the Kids Ministry Director for our Playas campus. And today we are kicking off a brand new series called Four. The series today is going to symbolize how we want to be the people and how we want to be the church that is for others. Now, throughout this whole church, here in Playas, all ministries, we are learning about the same thing today. Our kids ministry, our students, and here within the auditorium. And this is very intentional because we want it to spark good discussions over dinner. We want you guys to go home and practice as a family the ways of Jesus. So when someone is for you guys, when someone is really for you, you guys feel it. When you are for somebody else, you can feel it. You know that someone is very dedicated to you, and that's what we are going to be looking at, how we could be for someone. Actually, the definition of for is being in favor for someone or something. And that's what this series and this spiritual journey is going to be talking about. See, the idea for this series 4 is going to be a 5-week series, that's going to launch us into the next year, 2024, a long year of a new spiritual journey that we are going to be looking at. We want to be able to position ourselves in 2024 standing and being known for the church that we are for other people. We want to be the church that sets an example of how we love others. We want to be a church that is known for that we are for and not against the certain things in the world. And I think this is very important because as we step into 2024, there's this little thing that's called election, which is happening in 2024, right? And sometimes election season brings more division than it actually does unity. All year long or throughout the beginning of the year, we are going to be continuing to be told what we should be against. Who should we hate? Who should we cancel? Who should we ignore? But as we step into 2024, we want to be the church that is not looking at it from that perspective. We are going to be focusing on who and what we are for in 2024, not what we are against. So in this church, we are not going to be pointing fingers. We are going to be serving with open arms to the people that are the marginalized, the people that are broken. We are not going to be divided by politics. We are going to be unified by Christ. We're not going to be canceling anybody or stating our opinions of what we don't agree with. We are going to continue to love the way Christ has loved us, even when we don't deserve it. And how does that look? It's being unconditional love. So we are going to be the church that continues to love, the church that continues to give generosity, to be able to pray for those. We are going to be the church that has a mindset that may God's will be done here as it is in heaven. May his will be done here in Zona Rio and in Playas as it is in heaven. May it will be done here in Tijuana, in California, as it is in heaven. Because we are for Baja California as California. And you know what? That's what this 4th series is going to be doing for us. It's actually going to be doing 2 things for us as a church. If you're new to this church, since January, we have been looking at 49 clear commandments that Jesus has given us to his followers. Since January, of things that he told us how to live by, what to stay away from, and how to do it. So this series 4 is going to be representing the last 5 weeks of this series. And it's also going to be setting us up to launch us into the new year. And we are going to be calling it 4. And this week we are going to jump right into it. This week we are going to be talking about the ways of compassion. Now Jesus tells us that if we want to live for other people, we need to have one key ingredient, and that's compassion. So today we are going to be looking at one of the most famous stories in the Bible where he gives us this command. And before we get into it, it's the Good Samaritan. I'm sure you guys all heard it. You can find it in Luke chapter 10. But before we get into the verses, if you're new to the Bible, oftentimes Jesus tells us stories to help us better understand what he's trying to teach, parables. He gives us a daily story, and he gives us a heavenly perspective. And in this story, this is what Jesus is doing. So here, he's talking to a bunch of religious leaders. And during this teaching, a religious leader asks a question. Now, this question wasn't meant, or it didn't indicate that he really was intrigued with what Jesus had to say, or that he wanted to know more. He was asking a question because he was trying to trick Jesus. In other versions of the Bible, it says, test him. So he asks, what must I do to inherit eternal life? And Jesus simply answers, love your God and love your neighbor as yourself. Simple. Love your God and love yourself, your neighbor as yourself. And let me tell you, this religious leader, he didn't always love his neighbors. In fact, he didn't want to love all his neighbors. So he goes again and he asks another question. Well, who is my neighbor, he says. And this is where we're going to pick up the verse in Luke chapter 10. It's up on the screen or it's in your notes. Luke chapter 10, verses 30 through 37, it says, Jesus replied and said, a man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho, and he encountered robbers, and they stripped him, and they beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. And by coincidence, a priest was going down that road, and when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. I'm going to pause right there. Now let's remember, we just saw the first person that encountered this broken person as a priest. In the first Jewish culture, the priest was at the highest of the religious ladder. The most person that you would think was the holy of the holiest people. And he didn't even have compassion for this man. Let's continue to read. It says, likewise, a Levite also, when he came to the place and saw him, he passed by on the other side. So right here we have two people that he encountered. We have the priest and we have the Levite. Now the Levite's role or his main responsibility was the upkeep of the holy temple. So we have about the highest of the highest and we have about the lowest of the religious. So we have a big spectrum of religious leaders that we think are the most holiest. So what does Jesus tell us? We have a group of people that other people look up to, and they're not even setting an example of having compassion. But look what Jesus says next in our next verse. It says, but a Samaritan who was on a journey came upon him, and when he saw him, he felt what? He felt compassion. Now, I know it's hard for us to really get the concept or understand the jaw-dropping of who just showed compassion to this man. Let's remember that Jesus was talking to a group of religious leaders, and they rejected Samaritans. They did not want to have any encounter with them. They looked at them as half-breeds. They looked at them as half-Gentiles. They looked down upon them. But what Jesus is doing is he's exposing this religious leader's sins, what he has going on in his heart. He's exposing the sin of the religious leader that doesn't want to love the people that he doesn't agree with. And Jesus is using this outsider as the hero of this story. And I get it. It is kind of hard to understand, well, the Samaritan is the hero. It's like me saying, if you guys think of it this way, it's like me saying that the Padres just won the World Series. Exactly. I saw a few jaws drop. You're like, what? How is that possible? They never even got it past the wild card, right? That's how shocking this news to the religious leaders was. It was just like the Samaritan out of all people, right? So I want you guys to think of it. This is how shocking the news was. But the Samaritan man was the one that showed compassion. And look what the compassion had him do. Let's continue to read verses 34. It says, and he came to him and bandaged up his wounds, pouring oil, wine on them, and he put them on his own animal and brought him to an inn and took care of him. On the next day, he took out 2 denarii, which is equivalent to about $200 in today's, and he gave it to the innkeeper. And he said, take care of him. Whatever more you spend, I will return and I will repay you. Compassion, right? Then Jesus looks at the religious guys and he asks them a question. He asked them, which of these 3 do you think proved to be a neighbor to the man who fell into the robber's hands? And he said, the one who showed him compassion. Then Jesus said to him, go and do the same. Now, in these last sentences, you could just totally see how irritated that religious leader was. He couldn't even say the Samaritan man. He just said the one that showed compassion. Jesus is showing us here in these verses, and he's showing them, this is what true compassion looks like. Compassion is more than just having empathy. It's more than just a feeling. Compassion moves you to stop what you are doing, to stop walking, and to get involved. That's what compassion does. I love how Stephen Furtick puts it. He says that this parable of the Good Samaritan, he says that 2 people saw this situation as an interruption to their life, but only one person sees it as an invitation. When we change our perspective and we begin to see it as an invitation of God and use our discernment that God is wanting his will to be done and stop seeing it less as an interruption to our life, that's when we start showing compassion. So right now, we want to be the church that shows compassion. In this 4th series, we are going to be showing compassion. So let's stop looking at people's problems or situations as interruptions. Let's start looking at them as invitations that God wants to use us, that he wants to use you guys to do his will. Let's show compassion. I want to show you the progression of compassion and what it does, what it really looks like, and how you guys could be more intentional maybe this week to show compassion. This is your first fill-in. The progression of compassion, the first thing to do is do acts of kindness. Now, this is about the first level of compassion. This is something that we could all engage in. We see this happen in the story that we just read, the Good Samaritan. The man stops because he sees a need. He doesn't just continue to walk by. This was his act of kindness. Now, this level of action or this good deed is something that's very unselfish, but it also benefits somebody else, the needs of somebody else. It doesn't require long-term relationships or investment of your time. It just requires us to be aware of what is going on around us. Do you guys know how easy it is to be unaware? Have you guys ever been in a situation where you go start looking for your glasses and you start fumbling through your big purse with all these knickknacks and you're looking everywhere to just realize that they were on your head the whole time? Or maybe it's your keys. I know I go crazy looking for my keys sometimes. I'm like, where are my keys? I'm asking everybody, where are my keys? And someone's like, they're in your pocket. That's how easy it is to be unaware of the most obvious things that we have going on in our world. And the truth is that oftentimes we are unaware because we are so stressed out or overwhelmed with our own problems that we have in our own lives that we miss the needs of others that are around us. That's how easy it is to be unaware. How many of you could say that you guys have been there before? Because I know I have. So being for someone and showing compassion for someone means that we need to be aware. Let's be more aware to what is going on around us. Maybe it's in your jobs. Maybe it's in our schools, in our streets, in our cities. Let's be intentional to show compassion through our acts of kindness. Our next level of progression of compassion, this is your next fill-in, is to make relational and financial investments. Now, acts of kindness are a good place to start, but it's not the place to stop. We see this in the story as well with the Good Samaritan. He makes the relational connection and also the financial investment to care for this man. He gives money to cover his injuries and the medical cares. He also gets involved by staying committed to the resources that he wants to provide for this man. He tells them, hey, keep an eye on him. I promise when I come back, if there's anything that I need to cover, I will continue to be that commitment, right? This is the next level of compassion. It requires us to move from being aware to being intentional. And these things for you might be like, hey, can I pick up your groceries? We have a bunch of people that can't cross, or maybe they don't have the privilege of having Sentry. Hey, do you need anything from the store? I'm about to head back. Can I pick it up for you? Maybe it's starting to be committed to serving alongside some of our leaders on a Saturday as they head out into our community and serve the 1,200 people that are hungry. Maybe for you, it's sponsoring a little bit with the local orphanage in your neighborhood. Dropping off some cleaning supplies. Asking if there's anything that they need to get them by from that month. And when we talk about these things, the reality is, and I don't know if it's for you guys, that when it comes to the needs of the world or in our own community, we often get overwhelmed, right? I know I do. Because maybe you guys feel, hey, me as an individual, I'm struggling too. There's no way that I could be able to make an impact on or change the world. And that's true. Our church can't meet everyone's needs. We can't fix the world on our own. But what I do believe is that every person and every church is called to meet a need, not all needs, a need of someone or something. And if we all position ourselves to be that person and be that church, I truly believe that God's will be done. We are called to do something. That's the next level of compassion. It's being intentional. And in fact, we spoke about it a little while ago. We are inviting everyone from both campuses, for here in Zona Rio, in Playas, those behind the scenes, people that you invite. We are opening up an invitation to everyone to join us the next couple of weeks. November 4th, we are heading out to a shelter that once we went before, it was 1,800 people. We are going to be feeding them. We're also going to be heading out the following week on November 11th to Zona Red and to a rehab center where we are going to be giving our time, sharing the word, praying for them, interacting with them. We are going to be the church that is intentional to meet at least some of those needs. We know that once we leave there, everything's not going to be perfect, but at least we did something. So before you guys leave, I want you guys to just pick one of those dates. Experience that as a community where we could go out and be the church. And when you guys sign up, you guys are going to get one of these cool shirts. It's either going to say for or por Tijuana. I've been living in Tijuana for almost 14 years. A place that you would probably ask me 5 years before that if I ever thought I would be living in Mexico. That I didn't even think I was going to share this today. Tijuana has a place that has been for me and for my family. Tijuana has been a place where my family was able to stay together. So I want to be that person that is for Tijuana now. And if you guys are new to this church, I don't want to put pressure on you guys to join us on one of these weekends. But just keep coming back the next 5 weeks. So that way you could see and hear and learn these next 5 weeks of these teachings that Jesus is calling you to do. And that way you guys could witness a group of Jesus followers that truly believe in his mission. Just keep coming back. And the invitation is extended to you guys too. If you guys want to partner up with us, amazing. So the first level of kindness that we have of compassion is to be doing kind things. Showing kindness. The next level we talked about was making relational and financial investments, and this is your next one. It's be a catalyst for change. Now, when I say catalyst, I want you guys to think, I don't know if we got some nerds in here, but think of chemistry. Catalyst is a chemical reaction that causes change. We want our faith, our service, and our generosity to cause a reaction in our city. We want the reaction to develop curiosity of who we are, to experience the reaction of true love, the reaction of blessings, of people wanting to do more within our city. And when I think of people or a group of people that have been a catalyst into our community here in Baja California and in California, I think of Marissa Ugarte. Now, she is a lady that is the founder of an organization, BSCC. She runs an organization here where she rescues women and children from sex trafficking. And I don't know if you guys know this, but our network of churches here in Tijuana and in California, we fully support and fund one of these safe houses. Another example of people that I could think of that has impacted my family too, that have been a catalyst of change within Tijuana, is here at home. Our Soy TJ organization, our learning center that my girls attend to. This is a group of people who are seeking change, that have been bringing change, positive change to our community. This is the next level of compassion. It is the greatest sacrifice, yeah, but it is also the biggest impact. And this is what we are trying to do as a church in these next 5 weeks that is going to launch us also into 2024. We want to be a church that is bringing change and causes reaction, not only for ourselves, but for our families, for our community, for our church, for Tijuana. We are going to be stepping out of our comfort zone and just doing a little more. And I want to encourage you guys. I know we all have needs personally. I know I do. Just this past week, I had someone that showed that they were for me. Let's be the example of what compassion looks like within our neighborhood. I don't know if you guys heard, she's one of my, I want to say friends, but I don't know why I said that friend. She is not my friend. She's a very inspiring, Kat Von D. I have a picture of her. She's a well-known tattoo artist, very talented. She's like one of the raddest chicks. And she's up there with Agdali, our Playas drummer. Those are the girls I'm like, dang, they are so rad that I want to have that talent too. And she might have popped up on your guys' social media feed not too long ago. You know, her backstory is that, you know, she's fallen into problems. She once was broken, practiced with witchcraft. But a few weeks ago, she publicly displayed her love for Jesus. She's been working on herself for years. She's blasted head to toe in tattoos, and she's been covering up the tattoos that give her that conviction of her dark times, leaving only the portraits of her mom and her dad. She was surrounded by a small group of people of her friends and her family, her husband and her son. She went to go share some pictures of her baptism on her social media. That left me like, whew, beautiful. Because he is still raising people from the dead. He is still reminding people, hey, who you are mine, right? But then a few weeks later, after she posts those pictures, she comes out with the video. Now I'm going to play a little clip of it.
But there was this other side of the response that was just so awful. And, you know, it wasn't my atheist friends. You know, you would think that all the hate would be coming from people who are, you know, against religion or against Christianity and stuff. And, you know, we got like the typical, like, dumb, mean, like, emoji comments. But, like, it was really the Christians who were the worst. And it was just really, like, sad to see, like, this critical display of judgment, from Christians.
Now that left my heart aching. We need to show compassion in all areas of our life. The way we speak, the things that we write, the way we love, the way we give, the way we serve. This is a lady that's starting her walk out with Christ. And with a big platform of atheist friends. And the love was so unexpected of the people that she had no idea would accept her for what her decision was. It was the Christians, the ones that you thought were the holy of holy, that were giving her the bad input. The ones that didn't truly believe what she was doing. The ones that thought it was just all fake for propaganda or for posts. The Samaritan story that we just read is still happening today. So I'm going to ask you, who is your neighbor? Who is your neighbor? Is it people that look like you? Is it people that dress like you? The ones that believe in the same things that you believe? The ones that vote for you like the same way you do? Let's be aware. Let's be the catalyst to bring change. Let's show who we are for. As we continue with this series, we have a theme verse that we are going to be looking at constantly, that we are going to be reciting. And as a kids ministry director, I figured I would come up with some little hand motions to remind us. No, I'm just playing. Hey, those do work. But would you just stand with me as we read our theme verse together? Jeremiah 29:7. Let's read it together. Do good things for the city I sent you to. Pray to the Lord for the city you are living in. Because if there is peace in the city, you will also have peace. Now, can you imagine if every single one of us committed to living like this? Taking a posture of prayer and service and sacrifice and generosity for the sake of others, to do the will of Jesus. I truly believe that our lives would change to just experience that. To see and witness the impact that each one of us could do here in our community. We can't do it all on our own, but we all could do something. Just something. On our next song that we are going to be closing out in, it's called Our Firm Foundation. And in this song, it talks about how he's not going to fail us. That God is for you. That he's always been for his church. And as we take this journey into our 4th season, I want you guys to have that mindset. That whatever I do today or next week, the people that I encounter, with the needs that I see, that God is for them as much as he is for me. He is not going to fail you. He is not going to leave you. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, I just thank you. I thank you for giving us another lesson to learn, Lord. I pray that each one of us open our eyes and our ears and our hearts to the needs around us, Lord. Give us the strength. Give us the open mind of the things that we could do to show compassion. We want to be for others the way that you are for us. Thank you for never leaving us. Thank you for always being by our side. And thank you for using us as your hands and your feet here on earth. Amen.